solution. And thank you, John. And the idea is that you get that hands-on experience, and then you can take that information and apply to your environment, by signing up with the free trials and, experimenting with the same things that you're gonna learn in the class. Go to the next one. So as I mentioned, we have great speakers today, and I will let those guys introduce themselves, all right? So you know who they are and what do they do. So John, you want to start?
Sure. I just turned on my camera so you can put a face to a name. My name is John Meredith. I'm one of the trainers here at Sumo Logic. I am based on the US East Coast, specifically up in New Hampshire. Been with Sumo Logic a couple of years, and otherwise looking forward to working with you this afternoon, or today and this afternoon. Thanks.
Thank you, John. Vinay, you want to go next?
Yeah. Hello, everyone. I'm Vinay Madhi here. I'm a solutions architect for AWS, supporting Sumo for the last 1 year. Happy to be here. I know most of the hands-on labs are from John. That's a lot of fun, but I will drive through some of the securities aspect of AWS. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Vinay. Tim McDonald, you want to go next?
Yep. Hi, everybody. My name is Tim McDonald. I am the director of the partner architect team here at Sumo Logic. My team works with all of our partners on all things technical and enablement. So it's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you, Tim. As I said, 3 great speakers, and I hope you guys enjoy the session. So, John, you want to take it away?
Sounds good, sir. I'm going to not stream my video here just to make it easy and save a little bandwidth. But our game plan for today is that, again, we've had a little welcome here as far as what we're going to do. Next, Vinay and Tim will talk about introduction to Cloud SIEM with AWS. So we at Sumo Logic have a product that we've partnered up with AWS, and AWS sells that as their Cloud SIEM solution. And they'll talk about that. And then we'll get into some Cloud SIEM tools powered by AWS. We'll do some hands-on labs. And so we'll do, like I said, a couple labs there, and then we'll take a break, take about a 10-minute break. And then we'll come back and we'll talk about Cloud SIEM Advanced, powered by AWS as well. And we'll do a couple of labs there. And then at the end of this session, you have a chance to take a short certification exam. It only takes about 30 minutes. We'll show you where you can register for this and how you can take it. You will do it through our partner portal training event. And then, of course, we'll do any questions and answers you might have, any wrap up. And most importantly, we'd like your feedback, and we do an event survey here to capture that feedback. So actually, we'll do the event survey, the Q&A, and wrap up right before I turn you loose into the certification exam. So that's the game plan for that. So Vinay.
All right. Thanks, John. What I will do, next slide, John. Yeah. So what I will do is I will talk about a typical AWS multi-account deployment, especially with the focus on security services, right? I mean, today, if you look at any organization, you will have a bunch of workloads running with NTR architecture or some kind of big data workloads running in your AWS accounts. And nobody wants to run all these workloads in a single account, right? I mean, for the obvious reasons of hitting account limits as well as security issues as well, right? If the account is compromised, all your workloads are compromised. So what we suggest from a security reference architecture, which was published a couple of months ago, if you Google AWS SRA, security reference architecture, you should see all this. But essentially what we say is that we try to come up with a basic high-level division of account structure. So if you look at it, we say you always have a management account, which is more or less the real account of all your sub-member accounts, and then divide your other accounts into different organizational units. One OU is a collection of, it can be a single account or multiple accounts, but essentially we say, divide your security aspect of it into one organizational unit, logging into another one. Then typically you will definitely have some kind of shared services, have that in a different organizational unit, and you will have some kind of network architecture, network management, right? Have it as a separate organizational unit. And then you can structure your workloads in whatever format, right? Based on your NTR architecture or big data workloads or IoT workloads. Sorry. You can have it in your separate AWS accounts. So this is a typical multi-account deployment we suggest, so that as we go forward in terms of other requirements, right, for security logging, this all becomes very easier to manage in terms of isolation. Next slide. Yeah, all right. Yeah. So the main advantage when I talked about the separation of accounts, right, for security, right, it gives you those consistent guardrails with centralized management and governance, right? I mean, for example, for yours, if you have like a SOC, or even if you have some kind of security operations team, right, they can have a controlled, tighter access to this account, and they can have centralized management of all this. For example, CloudTrail, where do you want to enable region-wise CloudTrail logs, guard duty, Macy, whatever, right? So you have a tighter control on this organization and on this account itself, and only security team is the team which will have access to this account. Next slide. Yeah, for logging, typically, if you look at it, right, I mean, everybody has logging requirements, observability. I know Sumo Logic shines a lot with security and observability, right? Everybody has this requirements, and a lot of DevOps teams who are outside of security org needs access to this account. Again, security reference architecture from AWS, we always suggest to have a separate logging account and stream all your work, all your logs from your applications and whatnot, right? I mean, from the AWS security services as well into this account, and then stream it to your partner solutions, typically Sumo Logic here. Yeah, next slide. So here is a general reference architecture we suggest to kind of how do you stream events from AWS into Sumo Logic. So if you typically look at it, it is more or less a representation of the first slide, right? You have a management account with a root. The main advantage of having that management account is that you can delegate one account as an admin account. For example, in the case of guard duty, right? I mean, AWS guard duty service, the way typically it works is you need to follow a step where you have to appoint one of your security tooling account as an admin account, which we call it as a delegated admin account. So once you do that, from the delegated admin account, you can log in and turn on guard duty for all your member accounts, which are available today, as well as any other member accounts that you will be creating in the future. Once you do that, all your guard duty events identified by AWS guard duty service will flow into that centralized account. And then as CloudWatch events via CloudWatch rule, which you can stream it to Sumo Logic hosted collector via a Lambda function, right? This is a typical way of integrating with Sumo Logic. One good thing about all this architecture is Sumo already developed a AWS Quick Start, which automatically deploys this architecture for all your existing accounts, right? You don't have to do it on an account by account basis or in a management by management unit. You just deploy it once per one organizational, once for one management account, and you are good to go to stream all the guard duty events. Similarly, this architecture works for CloudTrail as well. So you should be good to go integrating with Sumo Logic. With that, I will hand over to Tim for next slides. Any questions on that, by the way? Just want to make sure. Yeah, I'm available via chat as well. Feel free to ping your questions there, ready to reply there. Thank you.
Okay. Excuse me. Thanks, Vinay. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about what challenges we're attempting to address with this solution, and a little bit about how the solution works itself. And then we'll turn it over to John to actually dig into the actual product. So, what challenges were we attempting to address with this solution? Well, one, cloud support. Obviously, we're here with AWS. This is an AWS focused call, but not just AWS, but other clouds as well. So the other big cloud providers, most of our customers that we talk to in the field are looking to support all of these, right? And so, legacy SIEM solutions are not really built for any cloud, let alone multiple clouds. So that's one thing. Secondly, obviously the digital transformation to cloud has opened up a lot of additional surfaces, attack surfaces, and created a much larger volume of machine data in the forms of logs and events from different security tools. And the scalability of our product addresses that shift as well. And then finally, alert fatigue. This is something that we've all heard about, especially in the SOC and the Security Operations Center, where you're just inundated with too many alerts. You have difficulty in prioritizing those and evaluating those and prioritizing your investigations. So this product is also targeted at that challenge as well. John, can you forward? So introducing the Sumo Logic Cloud SIEM powered by AWS. So this is designed to reduce the complexity of deploying a SIEM into a hybrid environment. So when we say hybrid, that could be multiple cloud providers. It can, of course, be a single cloud provider. And it can also include on-premise and SaaS solutions. So, if you're using, a variety of products in your portfolio of security tools, things like maybe a cloud-based or SaaS-based identity provider like an Okta or something like that, cloud or SaaS-based EDR like Carbon Black. So those things are supported natively within the product, as well as the cloud providers such as AWS. All of the data here actually comes into AWS because Sumo Logic is a AWS native product. So we live in the AWS data centers, and it is available through the AWS marketplace. John, can you go to the next slide? So, this product, there's actually two products here. And these are targeted at two different use cases. The first one is for people that don't have a SOC, meaning that you're not necessarily operating a 24/7 security operations center with at least one dedicated analyst, typically, more. So that use case, there's, everybody still has security requirements. So you still need a SIEM. You still need to be able to detect and respond to security issues. But on a maturity and persona scale, you may not have the same requirements that a dedicated SOC would have. So the Cloud SIEM provides detection and investigation capabilities. We have a variety of out-of-the-box compliance templates that you can apply to your machine data, logs and events to meet various audit and compliance requirements. We have some excellent features around looking at the security data that you're getting from the cloud providers such as AWS, and then baselining it against a global baseline of peers. So what are other people seeing in similar situations? And we integrate, as I mentioned, with everything. So this portion of the product is targeted at everybody, but additionally, if you have that SOC, then you may need to have some additional functionality. So John, if you could move forward. So we also have the Cloud SIEM Advanced, and the Cloud SIEM Advanced, as you'll notice, that's denoted in this slide, that it's built on top of the Cloud SIEM. So you still get all of the features and capabilities of the Cloud SIEM. You still get compliance readiness. You still get that global baseline. You still get, the full integration across everything. But in addition, because you have that SOC, you get some more traditional SIEM features like normalization, enrichment, entity-based correlation that's allows you to automatically prioritize your investigations and also eliminate a lot of white noise and false positives that you might see using an older technology. And then there's machine learning models involved as well. So this is two sides of the same coin, right? If you are just starting out on your cloud journey, or if you are a smaller organization, maybe you don't have the dedicated resources to drive a dedicated SOC, then maybe the Cloud SIEM is the solution for you. But if you're a little bit further along in your journey, then you may need the advanced capabilities of the Cloud SIEM Advanced product. Okay. And with that, we'll go to John. So if I'll be here for a bit. If anybody has any additional questions for me, I'll also be able to answer them in the chat. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Tim. So again, we're going to focus on here Cloud SIEM and Cloud SIEM Advanced. Now, I know there were a couple of folks in this room that I had in class last week, and so things may not align with the terms. The Cloud SIEM and Cloud SIEM Advanced are products that we sell through AWS, and they're named accordingly. So we may call them something slightly different at Sumo, but don't let that bother you. The concepts here are still valid and still pertinent. So our focus is going to be, we're going to talk about Cloud SIEM, some of the things we can do with Cloud SIEM. By the way, SIEM stands for Security Information Event Management. That's what it is, security, information, event management. And then we'll talk about the Cloud SIEM Advanced as well. And we'll take a break in between. So again, here's an idea. We're going to go through a little security demo here. We're going to talk about security analytics with Cloud SIEM. We're going to talk about and demo the the Guard Duty application. We'll talk about how that gets installed. Then we will actually go through an exercise where we install a CrowdStrike threat application and testing the threat intel lookup and looking and playing with some queries. Then we'll take a break, a 15-minute break or so, a 10-minute break. And then when we come back, we're going to focus on the Cloud SIEM Advanced. We're going to talk about the heads-up display, the user interface, how data gets in there, do a couple of exercises. Then, like I said, we'll summarize, wrap it up, and then you have a chance to take an exam. Also, we want you to take the survey. You know, give us your feedback, suggestions, thoughts with regards to this whole presentation here. So that's our game plan here. And for those of you not familiar with Sumo Logic, again, you know, we basically allow you to see observability and security across your platforms. So you can look and see what systems are up, what systems are down, what microservices are running, that sort of thing. We can look at it from an operational intelligence perspective, what's up, what's down. Obviously, our focus here today is on security. Where are my folks logging in from? Does that make sense? What kind of systems are you logging in from? Does that make sense? What's my firewall traffic look like? What's my port activity stuff look like? That sort of thing from a security perspective. From a business perspective, you know, we can look at your various applications, your web servers, Zoom, various other things, and say, you know, gee, like we ran a special promotion on something. Are we seeing that activity in our website? Or are we seeing that the volume of sales increase as a result of that promotion that we ran? And then also we get over here to global intelligence, and you'll see this in this presentation. When we think about products like AWS Guard Duty, which allows us to see across a global perspective of, you know, kind of threats and issues that security issues that companies might be having or areas might be having, we can see that at a very high level. And so we can make that stuff available to you. As far as your data goes, again, your data could be coming from various applications, various microservices, cloud systems, you know, Office 365 or Salesforce or various other softwares or service type things, mobile devices, you know, all over the place. As Tim mentioned, we are born in the cloud, raised in the cloud. We run on AWS, so we support multi-tenancy. We support scalability and elasticity. You'll find that we've got some nice machine learning functionality in here, as well as some advanced analytics, as well as some API functionality in here as well. Probably the most important facet of this, our product, is our security compliance. We are FedRAMP moderate authorized. We are PCI compliant, SOC 2 compliant. So we work and maintain those certifications with great rigor, great discipline. And then, of course, depending on your role with regards to AWS, you know, again, you'll there's a whole bunch of things here that you can use and you can do. Okay. Somebody has asked the question in the Q&A box, do we need an AWS account? The answer to that question is no, you do not. We're going to be logging into Sumo Logic's training environment, and for that, you won't need an AWS account at all. So great question. Thanks for asking, but you don't have to worry about an AWS account. So, all right. Again, as far as our security intelligence solutions, all right, you know, we have the capability of talking about audits and compliance. We've got some built-in applications that we have at Sumo Logic that you can install those applications fairly easily, and you'll actually go through an exercise where you'll do that. You'll tie it to the data sources as they're coming into Sumo, and then voila, you can see the results. So you can see dashboards that will provide you information about AWS Guard Duty or AWS Threat Intel or various other aspects. And so it makes it very easy. There's no queries you have to write. There's nothing complicated to do at all. Install the app, tie it to your data, we're done. And then, of course, we also have the Cloud SIEM, where we can actually write our own queries. That's why these other dashboards got built. They were built for that purpose. And so you can write your own queries and specify your own data that you want to see and build your own dashboards. And then for Cloud SIEM Advanced, we have another whole product level of things that you can do with this heads-up display, where it automatically takes all the records that Sumo ingests that you forward onto this Cloud SIEM Advanced, and it converts and takes those records and compares them into various rules that we've got built in that are part of the MITRE ATT&CK framework. And so if that record matches the rule, it generates a signal. And that signal is obviously something to concern yourself with. But we'll go farther than that. We'll take that signal, we'll pop out the entity, the host name, the IP address, the username, whatever. And we'll correlate by that entity, looking over a period of time, specifically 2 weeks. And if the value of the records or signals that get generated, each signal has its own score based on how significant it is. And if that score becomes 12 or greater over a 2-week period of time, we'll actually correlate this and generate an insight. So these little red triangles, and we'll talk about this in far more detail, but these little red triangles indicate an insight. So we've taken literally thousands upon records, converted them into signals, which then we generated into insights, saves a lot of analyst fatigue. You don't have to go chasing over the little things. You can focus on the big things and make it very easy to see. Okay. Gus asked a question here in the Q&A, and Tim or somebody, if you're going to answer it, I appreciate it. Are there plans to become FedRAMP high authorized anytime soon? I don't know, but we can certainly get back to you, Gus, on that. I don't know. Short answer. So somebody else might. So that's the process here that we're going to go through. Again, typically when we use our tool, we wind up creating queries. We do searches, we look at the data, we see what's going on. We build visualizations. We take those visualizations into our dashboards and alerts. We also have some pre-built applications with dashboards and with alerts that you can use. And then, of course, we also have a bunch of advanced analytic functionality in here, log reduce, log compare, outlier functions, all kinds of stuff to make it very easy for you to understand what the data is trying to tell you. Okay. As I said, and I'll show you this in just a few minutes, we've got a whole bunch of built-in out-of-the-box applications. Many of these we have built. Some of these have been built by others. They've all been certified by us, but it allows you to install an application which has a bunch of pre-built dashboards where you can see basically what's going on. And obviously, we've got a whole bunch of AWS applications here that you can use with regards to seeing across your AWS environments and seeing what's going on. And I just as soon show you that in real time. So we've got a bunch of built-in applications here that, like I said, you can use. And obviously, since our focus today is on security, we could talk a little bit about that, right? So we can actually see here, some threat intel, quick analytics based on IP, based on email, based on whatever's going on. And we can correlate that CrowdStrike data. We have a partnership with CrowdStrike. So through Sumo, you can look things up and send it to CrowdStrike to see if that IP address is a known malicious IP, and to see what the actors are and all that sort of information. Could be, by the way, an IP address, it could be a domain, could be a URL, could be a whole host of other things. But we do have that partnership with CrowdStrike. So using our tool, going through our tool, you can get access to that CrowdStrike information as well. Okay. So let me stop these slides here for just a second. And let me go out here and let me do a quick demo for you. Okay. So just bear with me a little bit while I log into Sumo. In a little bit, I'm going to have you log in here as well. I'll take more time on that and we'll go through that. But for right now, I'm just going to switch things around a little bit here and take a poke at some things. So here I am in our demo environment. And if you don't mind, I'm going to close these down. I am going to go into our security demo. And you'll notice here that we've got a series of dashboards by various products. Obviously, our focus today is on AWS. And so if I open up this particular dashboard, I can see what it's doing is it's taking my data from AWS and it's showing me where people are logging in from. So of course I can, move this map around, zoom in, see what's going on, have my numbers get broken out to see what's happening. As I mentioned before, with our relationship with CrowdStrike, we can send the IP addresses of where they're coming in from to see if there's any known issues associated with those IP addresses through CrowdStrike. And so we have identified 115 addresses here that have got high malicious confidence, and there is one that has medium. So we could look into this further, what those IP addresses are, where those IP addresses are trying to go, what those IP addresses are trying to do. And obviously you could write rules to reject those IP addresses. Here's one of my favorites, the suspicious login activity, or somebody is obviously traveling impossible travel speed. So here we have a user who's logged in, and over the last 3 hours, they've logged in from these 2 IP addresses. One of these IP addresses is from the United States. One of these IP addresses is in Egypt. So that's a distance of approximately 9 million kilometers or whatever. And so that's obviously an impossibility to do in 3 hours. Now, is it possible that they're part of my SOC team or part of my pen testing team, and therefore they're simulating all these various locations? Yes, it's possible. But we can visually see what activity here is happening. And then if we have to, we can talk to this user and say, what's going on? Maybe they are logged into Egypt, but maybe somebody else is trying to log in with them in the United States, or has logged in with them in the United States, or vice versa. So you can see the suspicious login at distance activity. Down here, of course, we can see the traffic being sent across maybe our S3 bucket. And if I want to, with any of our panels, these panels also have controls where I can choose to filter what I want to see and focus what I want to see. So again, I can see my data volumes sent in megabytes by my S3 buckets. I can look at my AWS guard duty logs and see what's going on there. Down here, I can look at my VPC flow data. This is an example of our outlier diagram. So what I have is a line that represents my data, and then the cloud around it shows me how many standard deviations above or below, what's basically effectively in range. And then if I have a value that's outside of my known range, that generates one of these triangles, which indicates that I have an outlier issue. And so again, I can see, look into, investigate, and see what's happening there. Again, I can see my firewall traffic, my bytes received. As you can see, my bytes received is much greater than my bytes sent, but I can then turn this on or turn this off to see basically what's happening. And then down here, I have a dashboard of malware event history. So I can see as a function of time, and of course, all these, you can change the time if you want to, but if I look across my time, I can see how many things I have cleaned, deleted, denied access to, placed in quarantine, or passed, to make sure that my malware is doing its thing and to see if I have a sudden spike in malware activity. Same thing with regards to integrity monitoring of my various events. Again, I can see what sort of issues I might be having here. Let me turn these others off to see if I have what critical issues and stuff I have to be able to troubleshoot, investigate, that sort of thing. So this is just an example of a dashboard that we put together. Now, each one of these panels represents a query. And so I could go into these underlying queries, or you could, here in Sumo Logic, using our Cloud SIEM powered by AWS, you could create these queries and you could build out a dashboard like this. Okay. And so that's this demo. Any particular questions? By the way, let me also just check here. Make sure everybody's microphones are enabled. They're not, so let me fix that. So if you've got questions, you can ask them directly, or you can put them in the chat box or the Q&A box. And just bear with me a moment while I enable everybody's microphone. Give me a second here. Claire, could you do me a favor and go into the participants and enable the various microphones for folks? I would appreciate it. Thanks.
Sure thing. Thanks.
Appreciate it. Okay, so let me, so Angela asked a question. Will I just wanted to know if will this video be available to watch later for those of us who have work and get interrupted by work? Yes, this video is available, Angela, and we will be sending it out to you. Somebody also asked, would CrowdStrike need any agents based on scanning on our AWS accounts? No, we're typically going to take the information from your logs and send it to CrowdStrike, and you pick and choose what you want to do for that. As far as what data you want to send to CrowdStrike, and then CrowdStrike will then tell us about that information. So there's no agents that you need to install, I'm aware of. Okay. Somebody asked, how do we access the lab? I'll get to that in just a minute. Okay. We'll get you a chance to log in here and that sort of thing. What systems sent the malware data? Good question, Mike. In our environment, we have some log generated data here that's generating our, alerts and problems and things like that. So that's how that's being generated.
So you can ingest, this is Tim, you can ingest any number of different endpoint tools, events. So if you have an endpoint tool and you're detecting malware using that EDR tool, then we can ingest those events. But additionally, there was a malware field in the threat intel feed. So that's just telling you what the malware associated with that particular IOC would be. So there's we sort of adapt to whatever security infrastructure you have in place.
Good. And Tim, did you see the question on the FedRAMP High authorized?
I did, and I'm trying to research that. I don't have an answer for that yet.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, good question. We just don't have. Well, like I said, we'll definitely get you an answer there. All right, so let me go back here to my slides, if you don't mind. And again, let's go ahead and get you guys logged in. All right. So first thing I'm going to do here in the chat box is I am going to send you all a document. So I've got a PDF document from my computer that I'm going to upload here to the chat box. And hopefully most of you can get it from the chat box. If you cannot get it from the chat box, if you would send to the host and participants your email address, we will email it to you, okay? But hopefully most of you are able to download this PDF document through chat. And I'll have it open and I'll walk through it and that sort of thing, okay? But this has some instructions on how to log in and all that good stuff. As far as logging into our demo environment, what I'd like you all to do is I'd like you all to fire up Google Chrome or Firefox, and I'd like you to go to service.sumologic.com. That's service.sumologic.com. Just give me a second. All right. And so having done that, the next thing I'd like you all to do is I'd like you to pick a 3-digit number, right? Anywhere from 001 to 999. Pick whatever 3-digit number you like. For example, some of you have always wanted to be 007. Well, here's your chance. You can take 007. But I would like you to take whatever number you want. I'd like you to type it in the chat box so we can keep track and make sure there's not a serious amount of duplication, okay? So pick whatever 3-digit number that you want, okay? And what I want to do is when you get into this service.sumologic.com, and if you'll bear with me just a moment, let me switch myself around here and let me log out so that I see what you see. So when you went to service.sumologic.com, hopefully it took you right to here where it's asking you to log in. And from here, what I want you to do is I want you to log in as training plus analyst with that 3-digit number. So for example, I live in New Hampshire. I'm going to grab 603 at sumologic.com. So training plus analyst with that 3-digit number at sumologic.com. That's what we want you to log into. Okay. If a couple of folks have the same number, it's not a big deal, Tim. It's if we have a whole bunch of folks with the same number, it's going to be problematic. And then for the password is and I'll let you see it here. Capital N-E-W, capital Y-E-A-R, 22, exclamation mark. And I don't think it takes a great deal of imagination to figure out where that password came from, right? We are now in the year 2022. It's a new year. By the way, this password will change next Monday. So the point is, if you want to log in after next Monday, when it changes, the password will change. I don't know what that password is today. Right now, I have no idea what that password is, but I will know when we change it. And the point is I am putting my contact information here in the chat box. So you are welcome to reach out to me, and I'll let you know what the password is. We change it for February. We change it on the first Monday of the month. Now, what I want to do here, again, I've logged in as Training Plus Analyst 603 at sumologic.com with the password. I'm going to click sign in, and boom, it should in fact let me in. Okay. And it let me in. I got a bunch of tabs open here from a previous session that I did. I'll close those things up and deal with that in just a little bit. But I want to make sure, okay, if it's asking you to verify your credentials, Tori, that means you got something typed in wrong. Might be, okay, good, you got in, excellent, good, okay. So if it says verify your credentials, that means something's wrong with your username or your password, okay? Maybe you forgot the @sumologic.com. It's got to be an email address. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead, by the way, if you got a bunch of tabs open like this, whoever had your number last left a bunch of tabs open for you, it's real simple. Just click on any one of these tabs. You'll see there's a 3 vertical dot button here. Click that 3 vertical dot. You'll have an option to close all tabs, and that will clean things up. Okay. But I would like you to do, if you get logged in, I would like you to raise your hand. So again, in your area, there's a little button that you can click on to raise your hand. That way I know that folks are in. So I'm going to give you a moment or two to go ahead and log in here. Okay. While that's going on, I'm going to enable some folks here to talk and clean up some of that stuff. Just catching up on some minor stuff. Okay. So right now I show 20 people have logged in out of 58. And maybe that's it. But I suspect some more of you are trying. If you're having a problem, please let us know. Okay. Let myself or anybody know here, and we'll get you all taken care of. Okay. So if you're having any problems, like I said, let us know. And looks like I got about 19 folks who have logged. You're good to go here. So thank you very much for that. But more importantly, I want to know if we're having problems. Okay, Robert's got an issue. It says, please verify your credentials. Okay. So if you're having a problem like that, Robert, there's 2 choices. Number 1, check your Training Plus Analyst 3-digit number at sumologic.com as your email address. And then, of course, the password is capital N-E-W, capital Y-E-A-R, 22, exclamation mark. Don't forget that. If that doesn't work, change your number, Robert. Try a different 3-digit number. Okay. So there you go. Okay. So how did I get on the screen that I'm sharing? Now I'll get to that in just a second. Right. So Matt mentioned that, again, we're going to service.sumologic.com. And so bear with me just a moment. I'm going to put the credentials back in here again. Share them all up with you all. And I have shared up that PDF file, but I'll share it up again. So Matt, here we go. Per your request, I'm going to send up into the chat box to everyone. Oops, excuse me. I made a mistake here. Hold on. My mistake. Try that again. Send it to everyone. And let me send this file up to everyone. Sorry. So the file's on its way up. You should be able to now download that PDF document. Again, that PDF document has, in fact, if I open it up, here it is. It talks about going to service.sumologic.com. You're going to log in as Training Plus Analyst with that 3-digit number at sumologic.com. And the password is New Year 22, exclamation mark. And all the exercises and all the things that we're going to do are, in fact, part of this. Okay. So let me lower the hands. Again, if you're having a problem, let us know. Please put something in the chat box, unmute your mic, whatever we can do. For those of you who didn't follow along with me or want to know how I got where I got, again, I went to service.sumologic.com. This is the URL for our training environment. This training environment is public. You can, I can, we can use it, right? We can play with it. So you can play with it today, you can play with it tomorrow, you can play with it next week. Remember, next week, the password's going to change. We'll change it for the month of February, change the password. So as I put in there earlier, my contact information, please make sure you grab that out if you want to use it next week or beyond. Okay. Thanks, Eric. Appreciate that. So then you're going to log in, as I said, with a training plus analyst number. And just for fun, let me try a different number here. Training plus analyst, and I'm going to grab 985. Now you might ask, why 985? That was the destroyer I was on when I was in the Navy. One of the ships I was on when I was in the U.S. Navy. That was the USS Cushing, by the way, who got sunk during a rim pack exercise a few years ago. So it's now at the bottom of the ocean. Intentionally sunk when that was decommissioned and that sort of thing. Sorry, I don't want to cause anybody any concern there. So again, I'm using the password here of a new year 22 exclamation mark, and I should be able to in fact sign in. Okay. And here we are. I'm in Life is Good. And hopefully you're in Life is Good. And again, if you're having problems, let me know. Now, truth be told, I'm actually going to log in with my credentials because I have more administrative rights in case you guys get stuck. Again, I've got some tabs open here. I can click on any one of the tabs, click on the 3 vertical dots, and I can click and close and choose to close all tabs. Okay. Somebody asked, where's the PDF I shared? I shared it in the chat box. If you're not seeing it, it probably means that your company may have denied you the ability to share files using Zoom, which is fine. If that is the case, if you would send to, not to everybody, to send to the host and participants, send us your email address and we will email it to you. No problem, Tony. Okay. And sorry about that, folks. Hang on a second. Claire, if I can ask you to email those folks, I would appreciate it. Hopefully you're seeing that email address and can take care of that. I've got a couple folks that don't have a copy of it. Same, Sean, then if you don't have the PDF, I need your email address. So send that to us. I assume that's what you mean by same.
I see Matt and Shazad. I'll send you
Excellent.
the PDF via email.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it, Claire.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we are in here. And what we want to do is I want to point out a couple of things here, first of all, just to get us started. Over here is our navigation pane. And in our navigation pane, to open our navigation pane, if it's not already open, mine is, but if it's not, all you've got to do is click on Sumo Logic and click on this hamburger menu. You know, it could be called a hamburger menu, a stack of pancakes, whatever. Click on it, opens it right up. Now, in here, you will find that we have our shared library. This is information that we can set up, or you can set up, your administrator can set up. And this is stuff that we want to share across all of our user community. So we can put dashboards, folders, applications, all kinds of stuff in here. This next folder is your personal library. This is stuff that you can install and put it in your own little directory so that you can see it. Now, even if it's in your own directory, you can share it with others if you want to. So you have the ability to share stuff that's in your personal library with other folks. This star denotes favorites, things that I want to mark as a favorite. For example, either in my personal library or my shared library, if there's something that I want to add as a favorite, I see there's a little hollowed out star here. I click on that star, fill it in. It has now been added to my favorites. There it is. I don't want it on my favorites anymore. Again, I click on the star, hollow it back out, and it will remove it from my favorites. So pretty simple stuff there so far. Okay. All right, excellent. And then finally over here, we've got recently open. I can see things that I've recently opened, or I can see things that were recently shared with me. So we can look at things that way. And I can see a long laundry list of things. Now, down below here is our main menu. Talk a little bit about that in just a little bit. Let's talk about it now. If down here in my main menu, I see this app catalog. So here in our app catalog is where we have a whole bunch of built-in applications that you and I could install that provide us hopefully somewhere between 70 and 90% of the information that we need to know. Okay. And I can filter these by various services. So for example, if I click on AWS, Amazon Web Services here, you see all the various applications that we support here. All right. I'm going to go back to all categories, and just for fun here, if you don't mind, I'm going to scroll to the bottom and I'm going to click on Zoom, because I assume we can all relate to Zoom. We're on a Zoom call right now. So if I click on that Zoom app, you'll see here it talks about what this application does. The Sumo Logic app for Zoom provides visibility. You can read all that. Great. You can preview the dashboard. So if you click on preview dashboards, you can see the kind of information the dashboard's trying to tell you. How are my users using Zoom? How long are the meetings? Am I getting what I'm paying for? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And there's some arrows here so you can scoot across the various dashboards to see the availability, to see the user activity, to see the guest activity, all of that fun stuff, administrative activity. Very, very handy stuff. And again, hopefully if we built these right, we are as close to 100% as we can get for you as far as providing the information that you need. But from a practical perspective, we're probably somewhere between 70 and 90%. And then after you install the application, you can go in and modify some of those queries to get you that last 10 to 30%. Okay. Or you can ask us to help you with that. But these are various built-in applications. And as I mentioned before, under the category of AWS, we've got a whole host of AWS information. In fact, in a little while, we are going to install an app from here. You are going to install an app from here, and we'll walk through that process. What I want to do right now is I want to talk a little bit about AWS Guard Duty. So I'm going to go in here to activity number 1. Threat intelligence baseline with AWS Guard Duty, global intelligence. So I've already taken the liberty of installing in my library, in our library. So if you click on the library folder, you should see the third folder down that says Global Intelligence for AWS Guard Duty. And when you click on that, you're going to see there are 3 dashboards in this folder. These 3 dashboards, and that the color denotes these are dashboards. This orange reddish symbol is a query. But if I click on this first dashboard, now I assume most of you are familiar with AWS Guard Duty. Maybe you are, maybe you aren't. Terrific product that shows us where threats are, in this case, across the globe. So here I can open up this first dashboard panel. And again, how did I get here? I opened up my navigation panel. I went to my library, my shared library. I clicked on this global intelligence for Amazon AWS, and I clicked on this first dashboard. Okay. You guys don't see that folder. You should. Tell you what, let me share it up. Make sure that you guys can all see it. Okay. And if you logged out and logged back in, you should see it now. I'm not sure why you aren't able to see it, but let me also, well, let's just go with that for right now. Okay, I see it now. All right, good. Okay, excellent. Okay, refresh brings it up. Okay, good. All right, so this particular dashboard is giving me an idea of what my threats are, right? I can see here my global threat mix percentage. So I can see on backdoor threats, what kind of backdoor threats am I getting? Where are these coming from? Again, various denial of services, various percentages, things like that. I can see the various, my backdoor type threats, my cryptocurrency threats, my discovery threats, all of that fun stuff. And just like before, I could go in here and turn on or turn off so I can focus and filter on what I'm interested in. Additionally, down here, I can also see what, if I combine my threats and look at them by broad categories. How many of these threats are IAM user type threats? How many of these are Kubernetes threats? How many of these are EC2 threats, S3 threats? So I can get a sense here for that sort of thing. Now, again, this is globally across all of AWS Guard Duty. This is what they're reporting. Down here under my severity, I can see how many of them are marked low, medium, high, to get a sense for how well I can sleep at night. And then down here, we have a nice map box plot that shows us where the threats are originating and where they're trying to affect. So here I can see this threat purpose from this location. It's going up to here, going down to there, and I can see basically the start and endpoints for where some of these threats are coming from. And again, as I said before, you can, I can, we can filter and focus on what threats we are interested in. So some pretty good information there. Okay. All right, oops, sorry. So, and then if I go down here at the bottom, I can see, rare threats. So I'm looking at the most popular threats. So here I want to see less than 2% of my threat mix on average. So some of my lower key threats that might be slipping by. And so I can sit there and see that. Now this information provides information to me at a global level. So I can see what's happening across the world. Doesn't necessarily tell me how it's affecting me, my company, my information. But if I go in here into that global intelligence dashboard and I grab the second dashboard, now it's showing me my company's information versus the various baseline here of my AWS Guard Duty threats. So here I can see, for the last couple of days, things have been great. My threat score has been low. Now all of a sudden it's spiked up because now I'm starting to get some sort of threat activity. And I can see that my current score is 100%. Now, one thing, we've set this up to obviously generate threats for us, okay? I hope if you installed this application, you ran it on yours, you wouldn't have any threats. They'd be very low, very minor, very easy. But we generate data here to tell a story. So hopefully your story won't be as compelling, all right? So here I can see how I'm doing my company versus my global threat. And again, I can turn off the global baseline. And now I can just see my company information. And I can see I'm getting a lot of behavior threats, okay? Some unauthorized access, but a lot of behavior threats, trying to change the behavior of how users use things. I can also see, the global high, here severity events are high, the global medium are medium, and so forth and so on. And so I can see the kind of activity here that I'm getting within my company. And if I want to break it down even further, I can click on that third dashboard. And here at that third dashboard, now it's going to show me within my company, what are my mixes? So I've got a whole bunch of behavior type threats compared to, a little bit of unauthorized access. My threat mix on my rare events, I've got a little bit of behavior, a lot of unauthorized access. Where are these threats coming from? Again, I can expand and see where those threats are coming from here and investigate that sort of thing out. I can also see where the threat sources and the targets are. So I can either look at the input, or if I want to here, I can also look at the output to see, where my threats and stuff are coming from and how they're impacting things as well as the various resource types. So I've got a whole boatload of EC2 stuff, a couple of one or two little, user account issues, okay? And then of course I can see the severity of these activities as well. And so this dashboard built in will provide this sort of information for you. Again, here's that outlier diagram that I showed you earlier, and here's probably a better representation. So my data goes across my red line here, and I can see I can follow it along. The cloud that's above or below my red line, that indicates the number of standard deviations I've said that are acceptable. And if I have a value that exceeds my standard deviation, I get a triangle. And then I can click on that triangle and I can see more information about it and see the actual data and investigate this data and, see what's going on from there. So this shows us at a very high level how we're doing, and then we can go into a much deeper level to investigate, to troubleshoot, to resolve. Now, this is a dashboard we built right out of the box. You could build your own queries right out of the box if you want to. You can enhance these dashboards. You can do all kinds of things. So what questions have you about this guard duty thing? Okay. James, I appreciate the lead in. So James asked, hey, how can I get these dashboards in my real Sumo account? Great question, James. So that's exactly what I'm talking about next. All these dashboards, James, when you go to your company's Sumo Logic account and you log in, you will see that there's an app catalog button here as well on your system. And here are the various app catalogs. And if, for example, I search for guard duty, I start typing in guard duty, this is the application that I just showed you. Global Intelligence for Amazon Guard Duty. That's the app. You can click on it, you can install it. I'll talk about installing in just a minute. Okay. But you can search for whatever it is you want to search for. And again, for those of you with our partnership with AWS, as you can see, we've got lots and lots of applications here that you can install that I hope provide you a lot of good information about AWS security, how your AWS environments are working, how AWS Lambda is working for you, on and on and on it goes. Okay, lots of good stuff here. All right, now back to James's question though. This is going to take us to activity number 2. So I'm going to turn the page here a little bit, and here's activity number 2. In activity number 2, we're going to install an app. We're going to install a threat intel app for AWS. And so here in your PDF document where it says activity 2, we're going to click the app catalog. We're going to look for threat intel for AWS. So bear with me a second. Let me just go ahead and go to all categories. And I'll start typing in threat. As I start typing in threat, you'll see I've got threat intel quick analysis or threat intel for AWS. Now, I'm going to click on the threat intel for AWS because that's the application that we want to install. And we're going to install it here on the training environment. So I'm going to click on threat intel for AWS. Again, as I mentioned before, here's my preview dashboards so I can see what kind of information this is telling me. And I can look at my various information here. Now, looks like it's going to show me some CloudTrail data. Maybe you have CloudTrail, maybe you don't. I'm going to assume you do. Also, we've got VPC flow logs. Maybe you got VPC flow logs, maybe you don't. If you don't have them, this page will be blank, okay? If you have elastic load balancing, again, you would see that information. You could see what kind of information we're getting here. Also, in our community, in Sumo Logic's community, you'll see that for people who have written up on this dashboard and talked about it and various other things, you could see that by clicking on this community link. Also, if we use in our training materials under Learn More, you can find out more information about this threat intel application. And you can find out about any of our applications by going to our documentation. Our documentation, quite frankly, is real simple. Our documentation is, again, in this main menu down here at the bottom. Under Help, under Documentation, will take you to our product documentation. And here it starts talking about our apps in Sumo Logic. And you could do a search for various apps and stuff that you want. So if you want to install the apps from the library, again, talks about how you install them and all that fun stuff, which we're going to go through in just a little bit. Okay. So I want you to be aware of that. Let me do a little housekeeping here, if you don't mind. Go back to my Sumo Logic environment. So I hope you're all here. I hope you're all with me. I hope you're now looking at this threat intel. If you're not, if I lost you, and I do apologize if I lost you, let me close up all of my tabs so you can see how I got here. I'm in Sumo. I went to my app catalog. I started typing in all categories so I could see all things. I start typing in threat. I see this threat intel for AWS. I click on it. And now what we're going to do is we're going to install it. We're going to add it to our library. So I want you to click add to library. And where the threat intel for AWS is, I'd like you to add your initials. Okay, makes it easier for you to spot. So I'm going to add my initials. Also, I am going to add today's date because I did this just yesterday and I want to make sure I get a fresh copy of this. Every time you install an app, it needs to have a unique name if you've previously installed it. Okay, which is why I'm doing this. So you give the app a name, whatever you want to call it, and then you tie it to your data and where your data is coming from. And I'll talk about that more in just a minute, but let me get through this exercise. So here, my CloudTrail log source is actually, it's got a name. It's got when we created our source for our CloudTrail data, we gave it a name of labs/AWS/ and notice as I start typing, it starts trying to help me out by filtering values that match. And so my CloudTrail data is got a source name of labs/AWS/CloudTrail. And I hope that when you created your sources, you created source categories for them. And I hope you followed some sort of a naming convention. Maybe you followed ours where we've got labs or prod or UAT or whatever / subassembly, which is AWS / and then the assembly within that. But you can follow whatever naming convention we're working with, whatever works for you. Now, my VPC logs, flow logs, have a similar sort of name, labs/AWS/, and then I'm looking for, let me start typing VP, and as I start typing in, there it is, labs/VPC. Now, again, in your company, maybe you don't use VPC, so maybe that won't be there, but in our training environment, it certainly is. Last but not least, our elastic load balancing labs. So labs/AWS/ and then I want, I believe, ELB, if memory serves me right. Yes, ELB, elastic load balancing. Okay. And I want ELB, not the metric. So basically what I'm doing is I'm tying this to the data that's coming in. And again, I'll show you where that data comes in and how we do that, all that good stuff in just a little bit. I click under advanced. Here I can see that I'm going to install this in my personal folder. And that's exactly where I want it to go for you. I want you to install it to your personal folder. And then down here, I'm going to click add to library. And I want you to click add to library. Okay. So Matt asked a question. I'm new to Sumo. Is there any risk to adding tiles from the app library? The only risk, Matt, is that you've got to know what your data is called, okay? Where your data is coming from. So there's not, as far as I can see, there's not any risk other than you need to know the data. So, and again, if Tim or anyone else wants to comment on that, feel free. Now, I want to find this application. So I'm going to go back up here to my personal folder. That's where I installed it. And I am going to go ahead and look for my threat intel. And here I have my threat intel for AWS JWM 0202. And I see I've got a bunch of 4 dashboards and I got some queries. Okay. So if I start here, there's CloudTrail. If I look at these, I got CloudTrail. So I got Amazon flow logs, CloudTrail, load balancing, and then I've got an overview. Yeah, if it was me, I'd probably start with overview. And if I click on overview, I should see here data coming into the training environment, providing me information, overview information about my AWS environment. So here I can see how much data was scanned from my CloudTrail environment, how from my ELB environment. And if I want to, as I said, I can filter these by selecting or deselecting various values and see what's going on. Now, as far as my CloudTrail, this is how much data we've ingested, VPC, how much we've ingested, ELB. we've ingested. And then as far as my cloud trail, here's my threats over time, my VPC threats over time, my ELB threats over time. Now, again, don't get alarmed by what you might think are high values. We deliberately simulate things coming in here that allow us to tell a good security story, okay? And then down here, I can also see, within my range, is it pretty consistent? Do I suddenly have new spikes? Do I suddenly have a new attack going on, right? So I can see how things are trending normally. And again, in this case, it's actually gone down a little bit. But, again, you can see, do I suddenly get a spike? Do I suddenly have issues? That sort of thing. And all of these are made up by a query. So just for fun, I'm going to take this panel and I'm going to click on this icon, which is just to the left of the filter funnel. And this is the query that we write in Sumo that basically gets us our results. And this is the query that we could further enhance if we wanted to find out more detailed information. So obviously there's more to learn as far as getting to our query tool and all that sort of thing. But I want you to understand that, this is how this stuff happens, how the magic happens. Okay. Now we've installed this application, you've installed this application, and hopefully as you click on these dashboards, you are in fact seeing data. And you'll see the little green line scrolling through, that means the query is running, and now it's representing and showing me my data. So here I can see, again, my VPC flow logs, rejected flow logs, accepted flow logs. I can see the actual logs themselves down here. All kinds of good information. And all I had to do was install the app. Now, I mentioned we have to tie the app to the data. Where does that come from? Here in the main menu, under manage data, under collection, here is where you and I set up the ability to ingest this data from our logs. So you've got logs, you got metrics, you got your whole AWS environment. And so typically here is where you and I set up and bring in that log data. And when we create this log data, we give it a name. And that's the name that we tied to the source category when we installed the application. So we created a source, we gave it a name, we tied that to it. Not in this case, it's not exactly the same name. But if I wanted to search for it, I could find those various sources. Okay. Matt says, can you convince the Sumo developers to let us easily change the app parameters like source category even after we add? Sure, you can actually add a parameter for that if you wanted to, but I understand your question, so no problem. So, yeah. Yep. In fact, I think your question was, as far as the apps go, let me be precise here for a second. When we installed the app, we specified the source category name. If the source category name changes, what I really need to do to fix that is I need to uninstall the app and reinstall the app with the new source category name, which means it's pain in the neck. So I get your point. So again, I wanted to be clear here and be precise. But it doesn't take long to uninstall an app and reinstall it, so it's not hard. All right, so in activity number 2, right, we went and installed an application and we saw how easy that was. Any questions? And you know what, I just realized something. Because I'm not sharing my screen, you're not seeing I'm not sharing my entire screen, excuse me. Okay, so now you can see, here I am in the PDF, right? Activity 1, activity 2, and all that stuff. And then you can also see my web browser. Sorry, I was only sharing my web browser earlier, my fault. But we've got activity 1 and activity 2 knocked out. Now, next thing we want to talk about is, how does this query happen? How do these queries go to make something happen? And that's going to be activity number 3. So here in activity number 3, what we're going to do is we are going to take some code and we are going to copy that code. Now, Those of you familiar with Sumo Logic may understand this code. Those of you who are not familiar with Sumo Logic, the code kind of looks SQL-ish, and it is sort of SQL-ish, but it is still our code. Now, in activity 3, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this PDF. I'm going to swipe over this limit 1 line and the line after that. Now, I don't want to grab and scroll down to the next page because I'll grab the header and footer and all that stuff. So I'm going to swipe over this. I'm going to right click and I'm going to choose to copy. Choose to copy. And if I go into my Sumo Logic environment here, and if I click on my new blue button here, and I select log search, I can paste this code in. So I just do a Control V or Command V to paste it right in, and these 2 lines are there. Okay. Now, the first line is basically saying, look, I only want to get 1 result. I'm limiting it to only 1 result, a single result. And I want to look up a specific IP address, and I want to call it my threat. Now, let's go back and grab some of the other code. So I'm going back to my PDF. I'm going to turn the page. I'm going to grab the rest of this code. Excuse me. I'm going to grab the rest of this code. One more time, this time with feeling. Good. Going to do a copy, right click, copy. Going to go into Sumo here and get to the next line. To create a new line in Sumo, all you do is a Shift Enter or an Alt Enter if you're on a Windows keyboard. So it's either a Shift Enter or an Alt Enter. Then you do a paste, Command V or Control V, whatever, and it pastes it right in. Okay. And in a minute, I'm going to run this. Let's just check the chat. Okay. Where could I find the PDF? Okay, Gary, give me a second here. Let me upload it and see if you can grab it. I posted it up a couple times, but one more time. So I have posted it. Hopefully you can see it there, Gary, and you can download it. It's in the chat box. Okay. By the way, this PDF is yours to keep, yours to use, yours to, yours to play with. So if you want to come back and do these exercises later, you're certainly welcome to do so. Okay. So let me go ahead and run this query and see what's going on. Okay. Yep. So somebody wants me to comment out multiple lines. Give me a second, John, and I'll explain that. Okay. First of all, this first line is going to limit my result set to 1. My second one is going to take this particular IP and specify it and call it my IP. The third then is going to take this IP, we're going to send it to CrowdStrike, and we're going to see if there's any information about the actor, the raw threat level. We're going to call that threat level malicious confidence. And then if my malicious confidence is null, it doesn't have any value, then I'm going to specify the word null in this field called data exist. Otherwise, if it is not null, I'll put the word yes in there, data exist, and then I control what fields I want to see. So John mentioned earlier that I can comment out lines, and I will. So I'm going to come up here, the first line here. If you want to comment out a line, it's simply 2 forward slashes. If you want to comment out a bunch of lines, for example, here, I'm going to start right after the lookup. And if you hold down, if you're on a Mac keyboard, the Option key, or if you're on a Windows keyboard, hold down the Alt key, your cursor will change to a plus sign. And then if you drag that down, excuse me, you drag that down, oops, excuse me, well, little technical difficulties here. Drag that down, that should draw a line. And whatever you type in is going to be typed in across all those lines. So if you want to comment out a bunch of lines, that's how you do it. Again, if you're on a Mac keyboard, it's an Option, hold down the Option key. If you're on a Windows keyboard, it's the Alt key. So hopefully that answers your question, sir. You're welcome, John. Okay. And GG, I see that you, okay, great. You need the, good, okay. So let me run this. Now, again, how much data am I looking at? I'm looking at my logs for the last 15 minutes. I can change this to pick whatever value here that I want, or I can physically type in the code. Like, for example, one at 45 minutes, I could say minus 45M and give me 45 minutes, one that's not listed here. But I'll go with 60 minutes. And then to execute this query, I click on that blue button over on the right. My query will now execute, and it's going to look this information up. Here is my threat. The malicious confidence level is low. I can see the information that I send, the message I send back and forth between us and CrowdStrike. Now, this next line, if I uncomment it out, it says that if I have a null value in my malicious confidence, which I don't, I have a low value in there, I have the word low in there, then I'm going to create a field called the data exists. So that when I run this, I will now see I have a new field called data exist. Because this was not null, it set the value to yes. If this was no, it would set the value to no. And then finally, this fields command changes the order of what fields that I want to display. By default, when I run a query, these fields are listed in alphabetical order. So I can decide what fields I want and what fields I want in order by specifying those fields. And so this is how we create a query. Here's my threat. Does the data exist? Malicious confidence, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. And I can see information about that if that's what I want. Now, I could also, if I wanted to, take this inside the double quotes. Actually, I'm sorry, inside the double quotes, John. And I'm going to do this. You don't have to do anything, just watch. And I could, if I want to, change this into a parameter. I could create a parameter. And I can call this IP address. Assuming I can type in what default value I want to use. In this case, the data type is a string. And it doesn't like the fact that I put a space in there. So let's put the space out. You can put an underscore in there if you want. But now I have created a parameter and I can actually hide this. And I can ask my users to type in various IP addresses and we can find out the status of those IP addresses if we wanted to. Just for fun, let me change this to 95.95 and hold on. I think I forgot to grab the, yeah, I forgot to grab the, in my query here, I forgot to actually include the double quotes in my parameter. So that's my fault there. Okay. Bottom line is that I'll fix it up. So, but there's ways that you can enhance these is what I'm trying to show you. Okay. Does spacing matter in the code? Sometimes it does. Sometimes it doesn't. Probably double quotes are more important than spacing. So I get that. Let me, if you don't mind, let me get rid of this parameter. Go back to the exercise here. Let me just go back here, grab my lovely IP address. There we go. Make sure it runs. There we go. And then is it the book mentions here, or the student guide mentions, we can also add in here some other information. Maybe we want to change the fields around a little bit, right? So maybe we want to change what fields get displayed. Or maybe I want to take that IP address and see where is it located. All kinds of other interesting things here that you and I can do. So let me comment out this fields command. Let me paste in this new fields command and run it, and let's see what we get. Actually, yeah. So here I'm just looking at my threat, malicious confidence, does the data exist, who the actor might be, right? If we know it's a state actor, and by the way, it might help you. You've not played with our CrowdStrike before, not played with CrowdStrike. If I go to our documentation, and if you want to get there easy, you can just type in as a URL, help.sumologic.com. And if I type in threat intelligent frequently asked questions, you can see the sort of information that we get back from CrowdStrike. So if I go to this particular link, I can see that I can look up an IP address, a domain, a URL, all kinds of stuff here, even things like a Bitcoin address. And then it will then, tell me information about this, like who the actors might be, if it's a state actor or a non-state actor, and various other fields. So it gives you a little idea here about doing this CrowdStrike interface. Any questions so far? Tell you what, I'm going to close up all these tabs. I can close them up individually one at a time, as I mentioned before, but I can also click on these three vertical dots and say close all tabs and reset them that way. Of course, if I wanted to save my query, I could have done that. I'll show you how to do that in just a minute. My apologies. In activity 4, which by the way is our last activity before our break, okay? In activity number 4, what we're going to do is we're going to take some data here, and we are going to basically see who has logged in, what IP addresses they've logged in from. So again, I'm going to swipe over this code. I'm going to right click on it. I'm going to copy it. Helps if I go the right way when I switch right and left there. And I'm going to grab myself a new search, log search. And I'm going to change this to say 60 minutes. And I am going to paste that lovely code in here. Now, what is this code doing? It's looking at my source category of my CloudTrail data. It's looking at my CloudTrail logs. And it's specifically only filtering for the logs that have the word console login. So some logins, I could log in through the console. Some I could log in through an AWS API. We only want to see where somebody logged into the console on my AWS environment. Then I'm going to extract out certain fields. That's what these JSON things are doing. They're extracting out certain fields for me. Then I am going to count by those fields. But before I do that, I'm going to take, so I'll tell you what, I'll take everything except for the first line. And again, I'm going to hold down my Option key on my Mac keyboard, or you can hold down the Alt key on your Windows keyboard. And I'm going to draw a line down, and I'm going to type in 2 forward slashes. Whoops, that got rid of all my pipes. Hang on. Well, for right now, I'm fine. I'll have to type the pipes back in. The pipes are what we use to connect our commands together. So what I'm looking at here when I run this first line is I'm looking at my CloudTrail data, and I'm only seeing those that have console login in them. I only have 241 log messages over the last 60 minutes. Now, if I were to comment out the and console login, you might see I have more log messages because I'm not only seeing my console logins, but I'm also seeing maybe where I logged in through the API. So yeah, so I'm up to like 10,721 messages. When I add the console login, that filters it and brings it down to only 200, in this case, 37 log messages. Then what happens here is I am going to, let me type in my pipe. Okay. I am going to extract out some fields. And that's all this is doing. These are JSON logs. I am extracting out these fields. Okay. Now, let me move that pipe around. These, by the way, all these commands could be on one line, or they could be on separate lines like they are here. I just word wrap that, to move the pipe down here to make it a little easier to read. In fact, I'm going to comment that line out for right now, and I'm going to run this. So what this has done, these JSON fields have extracted out my fields. So I've got my additional event data, I've got my ARN, I've got my console login, my event name, my event source, my event type, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's my source IP address, user identity. Finally, over here to the right, I've got the entire message. Now, the order that they're listed here is alphabetical. So ADD comes before ARN, which comes before console login, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. Okay. So somebody says, I could use the Alt to delete every line at once. Yeah, that's fine. I could, but I really don't want to do that right now. So back to my query. So now I've got 234 results. Now, some of these, the console login value is success. Some of these, the console login value has failed. I want to remove the ones where it has failed. So I'm going to add a filter here, and I only want to see where the console login was successful. Why? The purpose of this query is to show me who's successfully logged in and what IP addresses they logged in from. Okay. Then when I say count ARN, and by the way, ARN is, I think, account resource name or access resource name. It's going to count by that access resource name field as well as my source IP address. So when I click count, let me put a pipe in there so it actually works. All my commands are strung together by that pipe. What happens when I do a count or a sum or a min or a max is it creates this aggregates tab. And in this aggregates tab, I put the results of my count in there. So here I see the ARN. This ARN looks like the same ARN, B. Smith. And B. Smith looks like he's logged in from several different IP addresses. Now, maybe B. Smith's a tester. Maybe he should log in from multiple IP addresses. But if he's not a tester or she's not a tester, then maybe I need to investigate this. Then if I want to, I can, of course, sort by my ARN. And then I'm going to do a little trickery here. I'm going to create a new field called row num. And across my rows, I'm going to set the value equal to 1. So I'm going to create a new field called row num and set the value equal to 1. So there's row num, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. And now what I want to do is I want to see the total of my row num based on my ARN. So now I see it looks like B. Smith has logged in a total of 211 times from these various IP addresses. Now, if somebody's only logged in once, then I probably don't care about it. Somebody's logged in more than once from different IP addresses, I care about. So I'm going to add a filter here that says I only care where my total is greater than 1. So if somebody's logged in from one IP address, for example, I log in, I only come in here from one IP address, I'm home, it's the same IP address, life is good. So that's going to filter out any zeros. Oops, helps if I put that pipe in there again. I'm pipe challenged today, folks, sorry. And then last but not least, I say, look, I really don't need this count. I really don't need this row number. So I'm going to use the fields command that minus sign means remove count and row number. So again, I'm going to get rid of my comment. I'm going to put in my pipe, run it. And so now what I'm seeing here is I'm seeing that ARN and all the IP addresses that that user logged in from and the total count. And so this is an example of using a query where we can see where our user activity and where they've logged in from, or what IP addresses they've logged in from. By the way, if you want to save this query or any of our queries, over here to the far right, there's these 3 vertical dots. And these 3 vertical dots is a save as, and you can save this query if you want to. In this class, you don't need to save anything. Okay. So Tori asked me again to go ahead and show how to add comments. Again, if it's a single line or any part of the line, that's 2 forward slashes. If I want to do, somewhere after the start of the line, I can put it there. If you want to do a whole bunch of lines, consecutive lines, then you put your cursor up here in the search dialog box. If you're on a Mac keyboard, you hold down your Option key. If you're on a Windows keyboard, you hold down your Alt key and your cursor will change to a plus. Then you draw a line down, drag your mouse and draw a line down. Whatever you type is going to be applied to all of those lines. So we want to comment out all those 2 lines. We type in 2 forward slashes. Me personally, I like 2 forward slashes and a space. It just improves readability, but 2 forward slashes is all you need to comment. So I hope that answers your question, Tori. Yeah, no problem. So good questions. Any other questions, ladies and gentlemen? So we mentioned we were talking about two different products provided by AWS, right? One is Cloud SIEM powered by AWS. That's what we've talked about up till now. This is all Cloud SIEM powered by AWS. We're going to take a 10-minute break, if you all don't mind, which I'll set up here in just a second. And then when we come back, we're going to talk about Cloud SIEM Advanced powered by AWS after the break. And that's really got some good stuff for you. So if you don't mind, I propose that we go ahead and take a 10-minute break. In fact, I am going to go out here and grab my favorite 10-minute timer. This timer will count down. I am going to step away also, but I'll see you back here in about 9 minutes and 53 seconds. Have a great break, folks. Thanks. Hey folks, it's John. I'm back. During the break, I was reviewing my emails, and I see that we've got a lot of emails with regards to, for those of you not familiar with, when Sumo normally does our certification training, we normally provide Uber Eats vouchers and all that fun stuff. For this session, it's not a Sumo event as much as an AWS event. And so I believe AWS is providing you some AWS credits, usage credits, for attending this event. So the people have asked about lunches and stuff like that. There are no lunch per se. It's all about AWS credits. So Claire, I'm not sure if you wanted to interject on that point or not, but that's what we're offering to attend this session. Okay. All right. So like I said, we started off, we talked about Cloud SIEM powered by AWS, and we talked about how we can, all these built-in applications and all these various things that you can install, applications that you can install telling you how your AWS environments are doing, whether it's Guard Duty or CloudTrail or CloudWatch or all the various components of AWS. Obviously, the focus here, though, is on security. Now, what we're going to do next is we're going to talk about Cloud SIEM Advanced powered by AWS. And to do Cloud SIEM Advanced, you're going to, of course, log into this training environment. Hopefully, you're still logged into this training environment, but if not, please log back in. And here under the cloud and the main menu, so again, open up the navigation panel if you need to. And here you'll see something called Cloud SIEM Enterprise. Now, you may recall Tim mentioned earlier that, if you get Cloud SIEM Advanced, it's encapsulated with Cloud SIEM. And he's absolutely right. So this is, some say an extra, I say it's a necessity, but again, this is the Cloud SIEM Advanced product that we talk about. Okay. Let me also, before I get in here, let me just check my slides for just a second, because there's something, a specific slide I'm looking for. I want to make sure that I'm covering everything up here. So here we go. Good. All right. So again, here, as far as Sumo Logic concerned, we talked about those built-in dashboards, right? That's good old Cloud SIEM powered by AWS. This Cloud SIEM powered by AWS, where we build queries and stuff. That's what we talked about before the break. Now we're going to focus on Cloud SIEM Advanced, where we're going to take the data coming in. We're going to build up a nice little heads-up display where you can see where your threats really are and where you really want to focus your attention on. So this is really kind of a neat tool. So it's going to provide you threat correlation, workflow, and event management, as well as you can also do some sort of automated incident prioritization. So that's what we're going to focus on right here, right now. Again, this product was born and built in the cloud. It focuses on security events, right? And it correlates your threats across your various things in real time. So whether it's operating systems, your firewalls, your network traffic, whatever logs and information we're bringing in, we can see across all of that. And obviously the goal here is to reduce false positives and alerts to really help you focus on what you need to focus on. And what generates these signals and all that fun stuff is based on the MITRE ATT&CK framework. So the rules that we have, that we maintain and we update at least every 2 weeks, that's all based on the MITRE ATT&CK framework. You have the ability, if you need to, create your own rules, because your company may be a little different. They have some different types of data. You may want to create your own kind of rules. You can certainly do that. We're not going to maintain those rules for you, but you're certainly welcome to maintain those. We'll maintain the rules we create for you. You maintain your own rules. Again, what we're trying to do is make it easy for you to see where the concerns are using this heads-up display. Just so you know, when we first came out with this product here, we did a 45-day evaluation with a customer, okay? And in that 45 days, they received 10 billion records, okay? That's 10 billion log records that they ingested. Now, we took those records and we looked to see if there was a corresponding rule or a concern or something we need to care about. And we wound up generating 9.8 million signals. So a signal is some sort of a concern that we have. Maybe somebody tried to log in with an expired account or something along those lines. Maybe somebody tried to tickle a port on a firewall that was closed, that sort of thing. And then those signals then are correlated by the host name, the IP address, or the username or whatever, some sort of who, and that we combine those signals together and we generate insights. So during that 45-day evaluation, out of 10 billion records, 9.8 million signals were converted to 175 insights. Now, out of that 175 insights, they were all investigated during that 45-day period. 95, there was no action required. It's nice to know. Thank you for telling us, but there's nothing we had to do about it. Somebody's trying to access a port that was closed. They weren't trying to repeatedly attack that port. They were just, doing a port scan or something. So, and then we also had 15 false positives, 15 out of 175. But we wound up determining there were 65 incidences that they looked into, were able to investigate, able to resolve, and take care of in fairly short order. Now, my question to you folks is this. In your companies, how long would it take you over a period of time to ingest a whole bunch of log records and figure out what's going on as far as what security and things like that you have? I think you're going to find that this tool fits that niche very nicely. So as far as our data coming in, our data comes in through the normal Sumo logic collector process. So it comes in through our collectors and through our sources. I showed you those briefly earlier. And so they generate what we call messages. After we collect them, ingest them, parse them out, we parse out the various fields, map them to things in the Cloud SIEM environment. Now we're going to take those fields, these messages, and we're going to parse them, like I said, out, extract out the fields. If, for example, we see something that looks like a IP address, but instead of periods between the octets, it's got dashes, we'll convert it to an IP address. So we'll map it, we'll parse it, we'll map it to the various fields in the Cloud SIEM, the Cloud SIEM Advanced product, and then we'll enrich it. We'll take the IP addresses and send them to CrowdStrike and see if CrowdStrike can tell us any malicious intent there. And that's what generates our records. So these records is basically all my information coming in. Now, these records are going to be compared against the MITRE ATT&CK framework rules that we have. We've got several hundred rules in our product right now. And again, you can create rules, I can create rules, we can, create additional rules as we need to. If we find a record that matches a rule, we will also then strip out the entity from this system and identify either by IP address, by host name, by user ID, some idea, and that generates something which we call a signal. Then we're going to take those signals and we're going to correlate them by entity within a 2-week period of time. And if during that 2-week period of time, the score of these rules, each one of these rules when fired has a value to it. If it's a real serious thing, it's going to have a higher score. The score, by the way, varies from 0 to 10. But if it's really, really serious, it'll be closer to 10. If it's not so serious, it'll be closer to 0. But we add those up based on the entity over a 2-week period of time. And if the score is greater than or equal to 12, that will then generate us an insight. And that insight is what we investigate. So let's go in here and let's do a guided tour here of our Cloud SIEM environment. Again, I am in the Cloud SIEM environment. I got in here earlier. If you did not, let me get you out of here and let me show you how you get in here. Okay. So if you've logged into our Sumo Logic training environment, okay, in our Sumo Logic training environment, you will notice there's in the navigation panel over here, the main menu down here at the bottom, there is a Cloud SIEM Enterprise. And if you click on that, that will take you here to the Cloud SIEM environment. And here, I'm going to go through this interface and kind of walk you through and see what's going on. So over here, this is my home button. This will take me back to the screen if I go someplace else. And in a few minutes, we'll go someplace else and we'll see what's going on. I can see that my system is online, and I can see the time period that I'm looking at here is 24 hours. I could select a different time range if I want to. But in that 24 hours, I have ingested over 24,000 records. That's down a little bit from the previous 24 hours. I've generated 4,000 signals. That's up about 48% from the previous 24 hours. And I have generated 3 insights. Now, in here with your insight metrics, you can see, because this is an event management system, we can see whether we've detected these, whether we've responded to them, whether we've remediated them, whatever we've done. And I can see how long things are taking. But right now, I have 3 brand new insights that I haven't done anything with. I haven't set in progress. I haven't customized them. I haven't closed them. By the way, you can specify, you can control what status these statuses are. You can create your own statuses, what I'm trying to say. And then down here, I can say when things, I can see when things were closed on a timeline here across my x-axis, what new insights I have, any closed insights, that sort of thing. Here, of course, is probably where your eyes navigated to when you first went in here. This is the heads up display. If it looks familiar for those of you who are World of Warcraft aficionados, that's because the same people who developed World of Warcraft, the user interface folks, were invited to design and consult on this. So they created our interface. Again, the goal here was to reduce fatigue, right? Looking at a bunch of data can be very, very hard on the eyes. So we wanted to make it easy for you to see what's really important. Here in my all-seeing eye, my insight radar, my heads-up display, whatever you'd like to call it, here are my records. And again, my records in this case go around for 24 hours or whatever the setting is up here. Here are my records. Here are my signals, these columns. And then here, these red triangles are my insights. So here, I can see my latest insight, or I can see any one of these insights. Now, I'll look at the insights and stuff like that in just a second. Over here on the far right, this is my latest insight. And again, on this little crosshair here, it shows me across my x-axis here some time, some intensity values, score values here on my y-axis. But I can see that this particular insight is all about a username known as Rico Dynamite. And you'll find in this product, by the way, we've got a bunch of these context action buttons. And so I can click on these context action buttons, and you'll see I can do a whois lookup on them. I can do an internet search on them. I can send it out to Sumo Logic search to see what's going on within Sumo Logic and see if they're there and what other systems they've been playing with besides our security logs. Okay. Okay. The lab doesn't explain how to get to the heads up display. Emiliano, thank you for pointing that out. Again, how I got here. Let me get out of here for a second. Let me go back to, if you're in Sumo Logic, because I assume that's why you asked, and I appreciate the point about the lab. Here in Sumo Logic, to get here, you're going to click on this Cloud SIEM Enterprise. So again, if you need to open up the navigation panel, please do. Then click on Cloud SIEM Enterprise, and that will take you there. So thank you for pointing it out. I'll make sure the lab guide gets updated. Thank you. And then down here at the very bottom is kind of my syslog. So I can see who's been looking at what insights, whether the status has been changed, what's been updated, and all that fun stuff. Now, up here at the top, I can look by insight. I can see all of my insights. So for example, I can see that I've got 911 insights total, okay? And I can see what those insights are and what MITRE attack tactic and technique values are here. And we'll talk about this interface in just a few minutes. I can also look by signal. I can see, you know, what various signals and stuff I see here, which rules have, you know, basically been caught and, you know, what's going on here. See what signals. I can also look by entity. So again, I can see that we've got a user, Napoleon Dynamite at windowdomain.local, and these IP addresses, and again, host names and usernames and all kinds of fun stuff. So I can see things by my entities. I can also, if I need to, see my things by my records. Now, the only time you need to do this is when you're ingesting new data and setting it up to make sure the record's being processed properly. So this is not something you're going to go into very often. Additionally, when I go in here to content, I see a lot of options. If you click on content, you don't see those options, many of them. Because again, I have more privileges on this environment than you do. But here's where we can create rules. We can do rule tuning. We can do custom insights. We can create match lists, all kinds of things to enhance the product, customize the product. Over here in this gear icon, I click on the gear icon. Here's where I can change the behavior of my context action buttons. You may recall I showed those to you, or my action buttons, which I haven't shown to you yet, or my statuses. So for example, I have, new, I might have, I got new, I got closed, I got open. Maybe I've got a SWAT team, a SOC SWAT team, a Security Operations Center SWAT team that I want to assign to. You can add that and customize the statuses if you want to. So again, here's where you can do some of your customization. Over here where this red dot is right now, this is my help. And if I click on my help, you'll see that you can go into product documentation if you want to, or find out about this environment. This announcement section is what happens when we do updates to the rules. So when we update the rules, every time we make a change, you'll see this red dot indicating there's a new announcement. And we will put in here as far as what we changed, what we did, what we updated. And so you can see the changes that we made. And once I go into there, of course, it goes away until the next update, the change. This icon lets me go back to the Cloud SIEM powered by AWS environment, right? Goes back to my normal Sumo Logic environment, if you will. And then over here, I can see who I'm logged in as in my browser time zone. Okay. Yeah, some of you don't have a gear icon. That's because you know the privileges for that. That's why I wanted to show it to you. So this gear icon you don't have privileges for these things. By the way, speaking of privileges, when you set this up, you can decide what, maybe a SOC analyst 1 should have certain privileges different than a SOC analyst 2, different than a SOC analyst 3, different than a SOC admin. So you can go in and set the security of that, just like you do in all things Sumo Logic. So we've got a Cloud SIEM administration class where we show you how that stuff is done. But basically, you're going to use the Sumo Logic role-based access controls. We're going to take users, assign them to roles, and then you assign the role the certain permissions and stuff that you want them to have. Okay, so that's how that all gets done. More information than, believe me, you need to know right now. Okay. Tori asked a question. Can privileges be based on Active Directory groups or by RBAC only? Typically, it's by RBAC only. So good question. We don't necessarily, I don't know how tightly we integrate with Active Directory and other things. I know we do various multi-factor authentication systems, so I'm not sure. Hang on, I got to think about that. All right, so let's take a look at some insights here. In fact, let me get back to my book, if you don't mind. So you may recall we are now into this page here. If you turn the page, it should say something like Sumo Logic, Cloud SIEM Advanced, powered by AWS. And so I'm going to come back to this in a little bit. But basically what we want to do is we want to look at the interface. Activity 1, we want to look at the interface. And I walked you through the various aspects of the interface. Now, in activity 2, we want to investigate an insight. That's what a SOC analyst typically does, right? They come in here and they investigate an environment. So Amelia points out we use Okta to manage access to Sumo Logic. That works out fine, Amelia. We use Okta for a lot of things as well. Not in the training environment, but we also do use it for most of our other environments as well. Not for the training environment though. So anyway, so if I want to look at an insight, what I could do is I could either click on this latest insight here, I could click here, or if I want to go old school, I'm going to click insights and see all of my insights. And they are listed in descending order. So this is the latest insight right here, command and control. And you can see here it was created on 2/12/809 a.m. The dwell time is from the time of the first event to the time of the last event. How long has it been? How old is it? This last activity. The insight is named insight, and then it's assigned a number to denote what insight this is, and then the name of it based on the MITRE ATT&CK framework. So the name of it is defined by the MITRE ATT&CK framework. I can see its severity is listed as high. Insights have 3 severity scores. Actually, I'm sorry, low, medium, high, and then actually there's critical. There's actually 4 severity scores. Who the entity is. It's all surrounded about this person called Rico Dynamite. And then, as I said, there's been 3 unique signals. And I can see across here, there's one signal, there's another signal, and the other signal's over here. And I can see where those signals are, but we'll show you a better way of looking at this. And right now, this insight is unassigned. So you go into this insight. All I'm going to do is click on the link that says insight, in my case, 968, command and control. I'm going to open it up. And so this is typically where a SOC analyst works. They are going to open up this insight. They are going to try to figure out what's going on. What's the story it is trying to tell me, okay? So over here on the left, here's my insight information. And again, I have this contact action button that I can click on and do some various context actions. In fact, you'll find context action exists all over the place. So here I have another context action button that I can click on. And again, I can do a who is search on them on the internet or whatever. Here's my action button. So in my insight is where my action button is. And I can say, you know, I need to maybe send this off and create a JIRA ticket to this. Maybe I need to send it to my SOC team. I want to send it via Slack or Microsoft Teams, you know, and you can customize this. You can customize this. In fact, I see that the somebody who taught the last class didn't clean up after themselves. So I'll fix that after this session. So there's my actions. I can also see my statuses. And as I said, you can customize these statuses if you want to. So if I'm investigating this, I can mark it in progress. Additionally, if I want to, I can also assign it to somebody. So I can click on this and I can assign it to whatever user I want. This is now their problem, their job to investigate. And again, I see the severity score of the overall insight, the event time, some tags. Here's where I add my comments. Remember, this is part of an event, a security information and event management system. I need to document what I did here, what I found, what I understood, what I did to resolve it, et cetera, et cetera. So this is where you add your comments. Now, over here on the right, I have a timeline. So here's my timeline from first signal to last signal. And so I can see this is my first signal. My signals, by the way, are listed here in ascending order. So there's my first signal. Here's my second signal, my third signal. And so I can see what happened. Now, again, on this timeline, I see there's signal number 1. It's a little higher than 0 or in value. My second signal was a little lower as far as value severity score. And my third signal was very severe. Okay, so I can see the relative severity scores of these. Now, my goal here is to investigate and figure out what the heck's going on. Okay, bear with me a second. Somebody wants a copy of the PDF, so let me throw it in there. I'm just putting it in the chat box now. So you should be all set. Okay. All right. You're welcome. Okay. Luke, is there a question? Looks like you raised your hand. You don't need to raise your hand. Just ask your question, sir. Is there a question? If you actually raise your hand, just click on it again, turn it off. There you go. Thanks. Okay, cool. All right. So what we want to do is we want to investigate this insight. What is the story that this is trying to tell us? Okay. So I'm going to click on this first signal. AWS API call from a terminated Active Directory account. Would you like to know that somebody is making an API call from a terminated Active Directory account? I know I would. Makes sense. By the way, this signal has a score of 6. Remember I said the The rules and stuff have a value from 0 to 10. So this has a value of 6. And you decide on your rules what you want to give them as far as a score. But when I click on this, it now shows me the information about this terminated Active Directory account. Okay. So here again, I can see the severity score. I can see the time. I can see who the entity was. I can see the signal created. I can see the device IP address this came from. And again, there's a context action button that I can click on, and I can do a reverse lookup on this, or I can go, various lookups and stuff if I want to on this. But I can see it came from this IP address. The user was Rico Dynamite. I can see what fields and stuff they used, who the users were that logged in for this, what user account they tried to access, all the various other information here. Okay. Now, to go back and look at the next signal, I could go back here to signals and then get the next one, but it's much easier. I'm looking at this signal right here. So on this timeline, if I just simply click on the double arrows going to the right, it's going to take me to my next signal. Okay. So here I have a rare GIS guard duty alert, instant credential exfiltration. So somebody's trying to take credentials and extract them out. All right. Again, who's my user here? Rico Dynamite, right? Unauthorized access. They're trying to access a bunch of account information. Ooh, this is the IP address that they were using. Now I ask you, is this information that you and your company would find interesting with regards to you understanding what your security threats are and your security posture and all that fun stuff? I dare say the answer is yes. Okay. Okay. Somebody's asking if they get a copy of this recording. Yes, we will after the session ends. We will send it out to you. Okay. So there's my second thing. So what happened is somebody tried to log in again using a deleted account, an API, AWS API connection. Then they're trying to do credential exfiltration. Then when I click here next, I also got a network firewall high severity alert, which has a score of 11. And there is a way to make the severity score of 11, but for test purposes, I wanted you to know it's 0 to 10, okay? And so here I can see the source IP address and the destination IP address. It was trying to access our cloud front environment. Again, I can see, maybe who the field was, what the user was, what they're trying to use, what the host name was. There you go, hackertools.com. And again, with my context button here, I can, if I want to, look it up on the internet and see what's going on. So lots of good information here telling us what is happening. So what would we do? Again, we'd assign this to somebody, right? They'd investigate it just like we do. They'd put in some comments on some actions to take. Now, the interesting part of this is that the comments and the things that they would record and the actions they would take are probably very company specific, okay? So, I would find Rico Dynamite, find that account. I would, change their password. I would maybe talk to them and see if they've been up to doing some funny things. I might delete their account, all kinds of fun stuff. So you put the resolutions and stuff in the comment, and then I said you'd mark it as closed or whatever. I don't want anybody here to close any insights, by the way, because that'll kind of screw us up for their labs and other classes. But that's how you and I get to investigate an insight. To get back to where I was, I can either click on insights or I can click on signals over here, and it'll take me back to my overall signal. Or if I want to, like I said, I can go back to insights and see all of my insights. One other thing I should have mentioned here in my insight view, I can see my insights as a list, or if I click on this icon, I can also see them as far as their status. So a list or a status, your choice. And if you wanted to, you could actually search for an insight, which we're going to do in just a few minutes. One other thing I wanted to mention to you to help you out with the exam that's coming up. So again, I gave you the little guided tour here. We looked at an insight. We saw what it was trying to tell us. We looked at the signals that made up that insight, figured it out. Now, again, the way an insight gets fired up is all these signals that, again, are correlated by some sort of a host name or some sort of an IP address, all have a value, all have a score. And if I take that score over a 2-week period and I add it up and it's greater than 12, then it fires off and creates the insight. So it's not like we have to manually look at all of our signals and figure out, which ones are which and which ones are going where. It automatically kind of tells us and guides us. So it's very popular that way. Now, once we look at these signals, right, we see what happened. Now we've got a scenario where a user received a phishing email, and we determined that Checkpoint determined a malicious file was being allowed by that same IP address, and then CrowdStrike detected a malicious event from that same IP address calling a Trojan. Imagine that from a malicious file. And then CrowdStrike credited detection alert based on that IP address. So, sounds like we had a phishing attack and it was successful. And so we're going to clean the machine, take it off the internet, clean it, talk to the user and find out why they clicked on that email, all that fun stuff. So these are the conclusions are typically what you would write in your log. Now, after you do that, we would typically, again, take what action we need to do, email the SOC team, send a ticket to our IT team, whatever you need to do. And then, of course, you would close the insight. So if we look at the whole flow process, a day in the life of a SOC analyst, they're going to pick one insight. Maybe they pick it by the highest priority, maybe pick the new one, whatever. They're going to examine each of the signals of that insight. Then they're going to make some conclusions based on these signals and based on their investigation. They're going to document that, put that in the comments, and then they're going to select an action. They're going to take an action of what to do. And again, that's company specific. Your company may be different than my company as far as how they handle this, right? In some cases, I may want to email my network operations center. In some cases, I want to email my security operations center. So again, customize it for you. Finally, we update the status, and then we continue on to the next insight. So this is the process that happens, and I suspect you'll see this again in an exam. So just wanted to make you all aware of that. Okay. So what we want you to do is we want you to do an independent investigation. So if you'll bear with me here just a second, let me stop my slide. Maybe I'll stop my slide. There we go. What I want to do is I want to go in here to the SOC environment, okay? And actually, let me get only one SOC environment opened up, so if you'll bear with me just a moment. Okay. And here under Insights, or actually here in my documentation, what I want you to do is we're going to find insight number 200, unspecified malicious activity. So the way we can find that easily enough is we go into Insights, and then here under Filters, we're going to click on Name, and we can pick an operator. Is not, contains, whatever. I'm going to go with contains. And I'm going to start typing in malicious. Of course, it might help if I spell correctly. Tell you what, I'll just go unspecified. Doesn't make any difference which word I pick. There we go. As I start typing in, then I start getting a suggested match here. Unspecified malicious activity. Now, when I click on this, it automatically shows me only those insights, and there are 67 of them. And as you can see, we got a bunch of them. And by the way, we've got some data that comes in here and runs regularly that gives us these insights. So, hopefully you don't have as many insights, but for our training purposes, we do. And what I want, this first insight here is insight 200. And this is going to be your insight to tackle. So if we click on insight 200, if you click on insight 200, it's going to tell you a story. And I'm going to give you 5 minutes to look this insight over. And you tell me what this story is. Okay, has something to do with card duty, and it has something to do with, traffic volume and other things, but I'll let you look at this. And I'm going to give you 5 minutes to look it over, and then we'll discuss what it's trying to tell us. Any questions? Ladies and gentlemen, here is a 5-minute timer. I'll talk to you in 5 minutes. Thank you. Okay, folks, time's up. Who would like to come off of mute and tell me what you found? Let me also make sure that you all are on, have the ability to talk. Who would like to tell me what you discovered with regards to this lovely insight? Anybody? Okay. Any takers, huh?
Well,
Okay.
I can take a guess since no one else is.
Okay, please do.
Means I won't be any more wrong, right?
Yeah, you're good. Yeah. Appreciate you taking the risk.
Yeah, 3 signals. Obviously, the first signal, what to me looks like someone's using a Kali Linux to do a penetration test, right? So this is probably someone you paid to break through into your network and figure out where your weakness is. And it looks like that's what they're doing to your east region. And then the second signal, it looks like they're just sending a lot of traffic somewhere remotely. And then in the third signal, it looks like they're trying to get access to your key, your access key in your region, which I would imagine they're trying to maybe either pull user like login information, or if it's, I'm not sure what, but access key could also be like they're trying to take over that access key. And then when other people try to pull keys for authorization, maybe they subvert it like they take control of that, and then they're storing the credential information maybe.
Yep. And Tori, you're absolutely right. One key thing though, all 3 of those things are coming from this particular host, this particular IP, this particular machine, this particular environment. Right? Okay. So those 3 things are coming. And then again, it's all about the entity, you know, what system, what user, what's happening here. So that's what these things have in common. Now, Tori, what would you with your company do something about something like this?
Well, I would first blacklist that IP.
Okay. Good.
And then I would follow the steps, right? You evaluated the signals, came to a conclusion about the signals. I would immediately notify SOC and NOC, whoever, based on organizational steps, and then take whatever actions are required of me after that. If I've notified them and I have a follow-up action, I'd take that action, put whatever safe holds or safeguards thresholds in place, and then I'd close it out.
There you go. And if my cloud practitioner exam question, if I got it right, maybe I might even want to reach out to AWS support with regards to this and mention that we've got, some sort of suspicious activity, or maybe nothing else, see if I can just dissolve this IP address, this host, maybe get rid of it. So, yep. So good. Thank you, Tori. Anybody else have anything they want to add? So I hope that you all had a chance to see today so far all the cool things that we can do with these Cloud SIEM solutions powered by AWS. Okay, both the Cloud SIEM and the Cloud SIEM Advanced. Now, let me wrap things up here a little bit, and let's take care of a couple little odds and ends. And basically, we will wrap it up and send you all on your way. First thing I want to make sure you guys are aware of, and that is, and by the way, earlier somebody asked me, do we need an AWS account? No, for this class you don't. But if you want to do a free trial sign up, you do. In the PDF document that I have provided, right, there is information about how to sign up for this on the AWS marketplace. We, Sumo Logic, are partners of AWS. In fact, not only are we partners, we're the ISV Partner of the Year last year. We received that award at reInvent. And so, you can go to this URL, which will take you to the marketplace. You'll have to sign in, but you can say, I want to try this for free, and you can try a free environment here of Cloud SIEM and Cloud SIEM Advanced powered by AWS. So you can do this and do this free trial up, if you want to, but this does require you to have an AWS account. Okay. but there's a free trial here that you can take advantage of, and I highly encourage you to take that advantage of that. Any questions about the free trial sign up? All right then. Obviously, we have all kinds of trainings and things like that. You know, we can go out to our Learn site and see what classes we offer. Some of you I know have, because I've seen you in classes last week. You can also go into our help documentation and, again, look that information up. If there is anything I or anyone can do at Sumo to help you out, you are welcome to reach out to me. And again, I will put my contact information in here as well. So if you need to reach out to me for any reason, you are welcome to do so. Now, what I want to do is I want to take a few minutes, and I'm going to give you a few minutes to take a survey. So if you'll bear with me here just a second, let me come out of this for just a minute. I need to take the survey link. And I want to copy it to the chat box, because we really do want and need your feedback on this particular workshop. This is a fairly new endeavor for us, and we want your suggestions, your thoughts, your ideas on this. So in the chat box, I have put this link in. And again, if you don't mind, I'm going to give you a 5-minute timer to go ahead and fill this out, because we really do appreciate and want your feedback. So I am going to give you time here to do that, and I'm going to be quiet and let you provide us feedback. So if you wouldn't mind, please take the survey, and I'll be quiet. Thank you. Hey, folks, thank you very much for filling out that survey. We appreciate your feedback. We appreciate your comments. So there's one more thing I want to do here, and that's to get you over to the exam, which I'm going to do here in just a minute. But I thought I might give Vijay a chance if he wants to say anything last thing he wants to add. Otherwise, we'll move on to the exam. So Vinay, you want to add, sir?
Yeah, other than the survey, at this point, I don't have much, but feel free to email me. I will send out my email contact in the maybe follow-up emails. I mean, people can reach out to me.
Okay. And you want to put that in the chat box?
Yeah, I can do that.
Thanks, sir. Thanks. Somebody asked, is this class sufficient to take the exam? Well, it depends. We built a special exam for just this class. So this class is sufficient for you to take the exam that we built for this class. But as far as our regular certification classes in security and Sumo Logic, no, it's not. Okay, we go into a bit more detail. So in fact, actually the two things that we talked about here, Cloud SIEM and Cloud SIEM Advanced, those are actually 2 or 3 different courses, certification courses that we have. So a lot more time, a lot more detail. Okay, so good question. But yes, you can take this exam and be good to go. Now, the way this is going to go is you guys are going to go to, and I'll show you the slide in just a second, but I'll put this information, if you don't mind, in the chat box. By the way, I believe it is also in your PDF document. So what I want you all to do is go to this URL, partnertraining.sumologic.com. And just for fun here, I will go there. And in partner training, if you do not have an account, let me log out here. If you don't have an account, you can sign in or sign up. I'm going to assume that you don't have an account, okay? So here, what we want you to do is we want you to sign up. And of course, the first thing it asks you is an access code. And of course, I have the access code. It is right here. I am going to put it in the chat box in just a second, so that you can have it, okay? Okay, somebody wants me to prepend my URL here. Hang on a second. Yeah, you can prepend their HTTPS. My browser does automatically, so my apologies for not putting it there. So let me take this. Hang on a second, copy this. Let me prepend this with an HTTPS. There you go. So there's the URL with a proper HTTPS. Now, again, when you go here, you'll see a sign in option or a sign up option. I provided you the access code that's in the chat. And here you want to provide your contact information, first name, last name, email address, not training plus analyst with some number. And you can put in whatever you want to for a password. I don't care. And then by doing this in the sign up area, when you sign in, although it should automatically sign you in, when you sign in, you should see this cube that says get certified. And here under get certified, I see a whole bunch of things. You will only see this one exam. Sumo Logic Cloud SIEM powered by AWS exam. And you can then click on this. And it says there are 20 questions for you to answer, and you got 60 minutes to answer them, right? We think we told you gave 30 minutes, but we'll give you 60 minutes. And the passing score is a 70%. So when you're ready to take the exam, and again, this is only if you want to get certified, but hey, what the heck, a free certification is always good. You can add it to your LinkedIn profile or whatever you want. And so you guys can take this exam. I will be here. Oh, Tori says we see all the free exams. Interesting. Okay. My apologies. Let me go back for a second here. Let me cancel this. Yeah, let me go back. So if you do see a whole bunch of exams here, if you see a whole bunch of exams, you're looking for the one in red that says Sumo Logic Cloud SIEM powered by AWS. That's the one that you want to click on. Okay. If you decide to take the exam, I will be here. So if you get stuck on a question, you can ask me. Okay. I will gladly try to help you answer that question and get you through that question. By the way, before we take this exam and we have ourselves a good old time, let me also turn on my camera one last time and say thank you. Thank you for being with us today. Thank you for taking the time out and learning a little bit about the Cloud SIEM and Cloud SIEM Advanced products powered by AWS. So anything we can do for you, don't hesitate to reach out. You have our contact information. But I want to thank you all for taking the time and being here, and hopefully you got something of value out of this. Again, I remind you that you can sign up for a free trial on the marketplace. Those links are in your PDF. And again, I encourage you to stick around and take the exam. But once you're done with the exam, you're welcome to sign out. You're welcome to have yourselves a great day. Please be safe out there. And we hope to see you in a training session real soon. So on behalf of myself and everybody at Sumo Logic, as well as everybody at AWS, again, thanks a lot for attending. Now, I'm going to go ahead and stop my recording. Actually, before I do that, I see there's some questions here. Let me make sure I get the questions answered. Okay, just some thank yous. Good. Okay. Let me stop the recording. And again, what I want you to do is, again, go to that partner training site, and hopefully you